Hi, friends. Welcome to this week's episode of The Best Damn Coach. I hope the episode finds you inspired, excited, and truthfully, we're in Q4. So we are home stretch of 2023, which feels weird even talking about out loud, especially because I feel like I don't know how you guys feel, but when my kids were really tiny, it felt like the days were so long. And I was like, what are we going to do to fill this space and this time? And then their activities now and the things going on in our lives, it's like, slow it down, pull it back. And so I'm definitely feeling that energy as we head into fall. And as we head into fall, though, we've had a lot of freaking awesomeness happening inside of the Best Damn Coach program. We've welcomed a gob of coaches into the community over the last few months. The conversations are electrifying. The support is great. I love watching the girls just really support each other with intensity and fire. And today, this is really what has inspired this episode because one of the things we talk often about is the power of having your own unique signature framework as a coach. And today I'm really going to dive into some of the common mistakes that I see around the cultivation of signature frameworks. And so let me give some context to this a little bit. I uh, I don't know how many times I've talked about sourdough on the show. You're probably annoyed by it. I'm sorry. It's just that I'm really loving sourdough bread making still. And when I decided to learn how to make sourdough bread, I didn't just randomly pull out ingredients and throw them in the bowl and mix them up. What I did is I sought out a proven method, an effective way from a girlfriend who's done this repeatedly and has basically a recipe, right? A recipe is like a framework. And it was the step by step process that I was going to use to yield a delicious loaf of sourdough bread. And then I was able to repeat it over and over and over to keep creating amazing loaves of bread. This is what a signature framework does for us inside of our business. It is a process that we walk our clients through, or ultimately, when you scale, they could walk themselves through, that creates a successful outcome and results. And it can be repeated time after time with multiple clients, and we would drive them towards similar, not exact outcomes. And so this is really what I want to ask you. Like, do you have that process? Or are you just throwing some stuff into a bowl and mixing it and hoping that your client walks away with results? Now, if I'm real honest with you in the beginning, I did not have a signature framework. I had taken multiple certifications. I'd also basically learned from a mentor. And so I was often just throwing stuff into a bowl and stirring it up. And I was getting decent results, truthfully. What I didn't have though was my own unique sweet sauce, this proven method that I could walk every single client through that would yield amazing results. And you know my love for results. When clients get results, you guys, they become your walking billboard advertisement. And a few things that also happen when you have a signature method other than your clients having results. One, you gain massive freaking clarity around where you're taking your clients and the steps in the journey that you're going to guide them through. That's literally why I, by the way, built the framework builder lab. Is I saw that this was such a sticking point for so many coaches. And I'm like, nobody else is teaching coaches this specific metric in the way, or this specific action step, and especially in the way I teach it, coming from a teaching background, which I'll share more about momentarily. But I saw it to be such a need that I knew that I needed to develop a place where coaches could come and basically cultivate in the lab their specific unique sweet sauce that is their signature framework. I know that many of you feel sometimes frustrated because you're not standing out. You feel like you're just like a sea of sameness in the coaching world. And you know, though, in your heart, though, you're way different. Like, in your heart that you have something different, that if people just got to know your work, if they just talked to you, if they just knew you existed, that they would definitely find like, okay, you are the one that could guide me to this specific solution. And so having a framework does that because you own it, you infuse it into your brand, you talk about it, you utilize it, and people begin to know, like, okay, Amanda is the one that helps coaches build frameworks. She is the go-to expert for that. She's the go-to expert that makes coaches the best damn coach. And so today I want to walk you through what I see as some of the most common mistakes that coaches make in an attempt, to build a signature framework. I really think there's kind of four coaches that exist. And I want to speak to this because I want you to listen, and I wonder what category you would put yourself in specifically. The first type of coach I often see is the imposter coach. The imposter coach exists when, like, their visibility is really high. Lots of people know they exist, but nothing about them is original or authentic when it comes to content. They're really visible, but they're just copycatting or not really developing any unique curriculum content to themselves. So that's what I call that imposter coach, because inside they're like, okay, but do I really know what I'm doing? Then on the flip side, you have the opposite. You have what I call the hidden gem coach. This is the coach where their content is super authentic. It's very original. They've put their heart and soul into developing it, but nobody knows they exist. So they feel like this hidden gem. The third type of coach is what I call the squirrel coach. They're the one that doesn't have original content or ideas and nobody knows they exist. And because of that, they tell themselves nothing's working and they're constantly ping ponging around, hoping that something will just stick and then it'll be like the thing that sets their, wheels in motion. However, the fourth coach is the expert coach. The expert coach has unique original content, their own signature framework, and they're highly visible. And the more they own their unique content and framework, the more they become visible because they become the go-to expert. And so it's my goal to drive my clients and my listeners into this quadrant, into this expert coach quadrant. And that's why I'm so passionate about teaching frameworks. So, just to define framework again, right? It's a step-by-step process unique to your coaching business that you take each client through to produce consistent results time after time, and it's completely scalable. So let's dive into the 3 mistakes. And as I share the mistakes, I really want you to think about, like, does this fit for me? Is this me? Like, am I putting a hand up? Because I am going to be sharing something that I think is a great fit for you at the end of the show, because I'm hosting a workshop where I'm going to be diving into this much deeper coming up. So as you guys know, I've talked about on the show, my family and I headed out on our motorhome for about 5 or 6 weeks this summer. And now when we were planning for this motorhome, what we did do was we basically started from the end. We were like, okay, what's the furthest destination we were going to go to, which was the Outer Banks. And then what we did is we reverse engineered all the stops along the way, because we basically were like, we got to figure out how long it's going to take us to get there and how much time we're going to have to stop at all of these places there. And where do we want to put that furthest destination in at? Well, that makes sense, right? Because this would save us on gas and time and energy. So we didn't be like, okay, let's go to this place. And then we're like, oh my gosh, it's an extra 10 hours to drive here. And now we're off the path to course correct to get to that end destination. And this is often the biggest mistake that I see coaches making when they are building frameworks, is they start building their framework at the beginning. So it's actually at step 1. And the problem with this is that if we start at the beginning, we don't really know where the end is going, where we're going to get to at the end. That's why I teach a specific framework when I'm in my FBL and with my private clients, called the reverse design method. This is my own framework, by the way. And as the name implies, is I actually help my clients build their framework starting at the end and reverse engineering all the results they want. You guys, think about this. When we set goals, we set the end, the finish line, and then we reverse engineer it, right? If we're going to run a marathon, we know where the finish line is, and then we reverse engineer how we're going to train for it. Why would our framework and the process we take our clients through be any different? And I think that this is, an important element that a lot of coaches miss. The consequence of this is that often what happens is by the end of the coaching, your clients aren't getting results. They're not actually getting what they signed up to work with you. And that's a problem, because they won't go out and sing your praises or send referrals your way. And I love this quote from Stephen Covey. It's, to begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. But a lot of coaches don't actually know that. And that's why inside the Framework Builder, we teach you how to identify that. It's not just a fluffy process that we slap a cool name on, like so many frameworks are. We are about getting consistent results. The second common mistake that I see when coaches are building their frameworks is that they don't actually have tangible results. In other words, they don't have a bullseye for their client. And so imagine if you and I were at a bar and we were playing darts and we stepped up to the dartboard and the dartboard in front of us was just a blank bulletin board. It had no circles and it had no bullseye. This is kind of what happens for many coaches is we haven't actually given our clients a bullseye to hit. We use words like they should understand or they will know instead of actionable verbs like identify, right? Or map out or create. And so the important part is that we create tangible results, things that we can measure, because what we can measure can grow or not grow. And so at the end of our journey or, milestones throughout coaching, we want to have ways that we can measure the success of our clients so we know if we're on target or we are off target. And in the beginning, especially for coaches, you're just trying to kind of survive and thrive. You don't have these tangible outcomes. And this is, again, what I teach inside the reverse design method. Tangible results, from my perspective, create consistent client results and a scalable process, which may not matter to you now, depending on where you're at, but ultimately you want a scalable process. So you could move from one-to-one coaching into group coaching or building an online course or something like that. And the more we work through this now, the more effective you're going to be as a coach later on. And again, I teach you these things because these are the mistakes I made. I didn't have any guidance in my world, and I had to really truthfully build these things for myself through trial and error. And I want you to get there faster. The third common mistake is that your work in your framework specifically is just never highlighted or talked about. So I'll give it this like pet peeve I have. So if you've heard me talk about Justin before. Justin was a police officer, and the last 14 years of his career, though, he spent on the SWAT team, which is super cool in my opinion. I mean, he was the lead sniper. Like, I want to toot his horn. He was just really awesome at it. And when opportunities exist, when we're in social situations or entrepreneurial situations, he's super like quiet about that. He says, "Oh, I'm a retired police officer." And I'm like, "You're a freaking retired SWAT cop. That's so cool. It adds street cred. You need to talk about it more." Then there's automatic credibility and legitimacy that's added to his career. And the same is true for your framework. When you use your framework, when you talk about it, then it gets woven through your content. It creates content for you to talk about, but also you begin to get known for that specific thing. And again, as part of the reverse design process, this is what we talk about, this is what I teach, is we talk about infusion of the framework into the brand. And so when we make these mistakes, we're really missing out on an opportunity to have a framework that not only sounds and looks pretty, but is effective. And at the end of the day, there's lots of frameworks that people talk about out there that actually don't cultivate results for clients. And I do not want you to be that type of coach. And so I mentioned I was going to be sharing something with you coming up that I think is a great opportunity for you to dive more into the content. So coming up in October, I will drop all the links for the show notes, by the way, October 25th at 10 a.m. Arizona time. I am going to be hosting my free workshop where I'm going to teach you how to build out your signature framework right then and there. So in less than 60 minutes, you're going to understand the key components of a signature framework. I'm going to share like how you can have this framework, even if you don't think you've coached enough clients yet. The framework, by the way, is going to help you gain massive confidence to stand out in your niche. And no doubt you're going to walk away from the workshop feeling confident. You're going to have tons of clarity, and you're going to be ready to show up in your niche as an expert without feeling like an imposter. So you can head on over to sign up and reserve your seat at amanda-walker.com/framework. Grab your seat there. I would love to have you come in and dive deeper into this content with me. So if today resonated with you and you're like, I don't think I have a signature framework, or maybe I have one and you're ready to refine it and go deeper into it, then this workshop would be a great place to do that, because I'm going to be sharing more details specifically about the reverse design method and some of the key things that are necessary for you to cultivate a really effective framework. So this is for coaches, mentors, even course creators, healers that are looking to define like this really amazing method that's going to help them stand out. So again, sign up for that workshop at amanda-walker.com/framework. All the links will be in the show notes. But I'd love for you to just think about, what was the most valuable aspect of this podcast for you? Which mistake most resonates with you? And if you think out into the future, how might that look different if you did have a signature framework that guided your content, guided your skill set, and also, of course, guided your coaching so that you could have really tangible results 100% of the time? So thank you guys, as always, for jumping into episodes with me. And please feel free to leave us, first off, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed on your favorite player, I would love for you to. And just as a reminder, we are on YouTube. So you get to see these episodes live. If you would like to see me talking instead of just hear me, especially when we have guests, it's really cool to be able to see these conversations together. And also, we really appreciate any reviews on any of the players. It's how people find us, discover us, and even more so, like just sending the link to this episode to a friend or in a community of coaches that you are a part of helps us continue to evolve our mission, which is to help 1 million coaches serve 1,000 clients. And there's no way that I can do that alone. And that's why I'm grateful for your listenership week after week. So go on out there, coach them up. And if I can support you along the way, please do not hesitate to reach out.